And not only this panel, let me thank everybody who has been involved as a panel member, or even those in the audience who asked questions, because it's been a really very productive day, and a lot of thoughts that in a moment I will ask the roundtable members to reflect on. Once again, the presentations were wonderful. I specifically want to highlight those who were involved in the patient experience panel, who really took some additional period of time to come here and give us their insights that I think was extremely helpful for future discussions. So thanks all once again. Okay, let's go to the round table. This will be a little difficult with the lights in my eye. So take a minute to just think about what you want to say, and then just reflections on the day, and try to make it no more than 5 minutes or so, or less. A single thought would be best, because it's been a long day for everybody, and we perhaps want to keep to the rest of our timing. So I was going to start with Cindy, but I was going to do it in a way that we just go around the room so I don't have to call on people. So Cindy, wherever you were sitting.
I was sitting over there.
Good. So we'll go to the left, to your right, and we'll go around.
But
the
you
room
want us at the mics, right?
Yeah, I want you at the right mics.
Right. Okay. So first of all, I wanted to thank the Planning Committee for starting us off with a patient panel, which I think was really, really fantastic. And what I took away from that panel was the need for more shared decision-making in medication decisions, and understanding the lived experience that needs to be incorporated in those decisions. So we heard from Caleb about, wanting that empathy and understanding what this means in my life. We heard from Bobby about her frustration when she did some research and brought it to the doctor, and the doctor just kind of dismissed it as not being protocol. And, our goal is that patients should be able to take the medicines that they want to take. And so that part of that process, in addition to needing to move upstream for the prescriber to really engage in that shared decision making, is also helping the last piece that Mike talked about supporting them in actually taking them. So figuring out what's going to remind them. Caleb set 3 alarms. Somebody else has a calendar. Mike talked about texting people. What is going to empower them, help them, engage them. So that was one big piece that I heard. It also seems to me an important issue that we're talking about the right information at the right time. And so again, back to that first panel, Dee said, oh, you're showing us this video during dialysis, and that, we can't take that in. People are tired and whatever. And Bobby said, oh, they're just sitting there getting their dialysis. It's a great time to give us information. So we know that that's going to vary among people. So thinking about, the big ideas about on-demand medication, or to take Chuck's company's product. And so I'm thinking about, are there things akin to nurse advice lines that, could be that one accountable place where you can go and get some answers when you're ready to hear the information, or when you missed the medicine and you threw out the leaflet and you don't want to try and Google it, what to do. Another thing that we heard in that first panel is that it takes a team. And so thinking in sort of the systems way of what are the pieces that different people can play, because we can't, keep piling everything on that 12-minute encounter. Should we have required counseling at dispensing, that like they do in Canada, where a pharmacist has to dispense the medicine, or what are the different pieces and different members of the team can play. And then the final thing that I wanted to flag was that I think we heard a lot about the companies behind the information dispensing. So we heard a lot about the big EHR vendors, about the companies that do the pharmacy labeling, and how can we perhaps as a roundtable help get the message upstream to those vendors about making the information more accessible and understandable and actionable.
Thank you, Cindy. So we'll continue to go around the room, and again, we have about 16 people that I'd like to hear from, so one or two sentences would work.
So being a dentist and coming from the another world, as it were, what I heard today made me acutely aware of the opportunity we have to have not only integration between the medical world and the dental world, but to bring the dental world into this fabulous concept of health literacy. We have an advisory committee on health literacy and dentistry, but I will tell you that dentistry is typically not team-based as the medical world is. And so there are some important and critical concepts, because all of these people that we heard from this morning in particular all have a mouth. Every patient that we're talking about, with all of the sessions we had today, all of them have teeth, they have a mouth, and the oral health concepts that we have the opportunity to bring into this arena in a patient-centered way, which is a relatively new concept in the dental world. We just have some tremendous opportunities, not only from what we can do on the American Dental Association side, but what we can bring to our medical colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you. Lori?
Hi, I'm Lori Hall. I'm from Eli Lilly and Company, and I would like to share some good news. As many of you know, I've been on the roundtable for, I think, 3 years now, but only just since January have I had the pleasure of having the title of Director of Health Literacy at Lilly. And it's something that I owe in great deal to these ladies here and the pioneers at Merck. And knowing how hard it's been for me, I can't imagine the blood, sweat, and tears required to blaze a new trail. And as we jokingly call, we are the Loris of pharma who do health literacy. We need more of us. And so first of all, I wanted to just say thank you for setting the tone, setting the bar really high, and showing me what's possible. Because I had you to point to then say, we can do this. It's been done really well. And the good news I can tell you is that things started to change. The tipping point was when I had the title. And so somehow having the title match your job gives visibility, it gives credibility, and it shows the rest of the organization Lilly is serious about health literacy, and you're going to hear a lot about it. So if there's anything I could pass along, it's, advocate for a job title that has health literacy in it. It does make a difference. The world changed for me on January 1st because I've kept track of unsolicited requests. These aren't the things that I've been proactively doing, but unsolicited requests in my own organization. I'm up to 139 unsolicited requests at every point along the drug development continuum. And what I'm hearing over and over again today is the further upstream we can apply health literacy in the research, the clinical research and approval and commercialization of medications, all patients benefit. So I have been fast and furious trying to respond to all of these requests, but it's a great problem to have. And so happy to talk with any pharma companies who would like to continue and join us. And there's room for everybody. It's the non-competitive space that we absolutely love and embrace.
Kim?
Hi, Kim Parson, roundtable member, and I'm with Humana. And so I'm going to sound like a broken record following Lori. But I think that and I think it was Michael Wolff who said, I feel like we've been talking about these same things and pushing this same rock up this same hill. And, where are we and where's the right place to be? And Katina's challenging us to find it. And I'm going to echo what Lori said, and that is to go further and further and further back up the stream, back at the creek. We are in the river or almost ocean. And I feel like that we've just got to go way back up in these processes and policy development to really think about and make maybe inroads a little faster. And I think that when we do that, we have to have the real people, the consumers that were at our tables today, engaged in that process every step of the way. And and I want to thank all the fellow human-centered designers that were in the room today, because I felt among my people. So,
Jennifer?
Jennifer Dillahay, roundtable member, Arkansas Department of Health. I think it's been really clear today that we have a lot of work to do to help people understand the information that is available to them on medication and other health-related topics. One thing that I'd like to follow up on was Councilor Rennie's comment at the end, is the struggle. Not only do people struggle with understanding the factual information out there, people don't have the skills they need to distinguish factual from misleading, non-factual information. And I think that is something that we need to find ways to help people, because that getting information is part of the health literacy skill set. And as become really clear, there's a lot of bad information out there, misleading intentionally so, and we need to think about how we could address that.
Wilma Alvarado Little.
Wilma,
Hello, sir. How are you?
it's very difficult to see that side.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me, though?
Yes,
Yeah,
we can hear
okay.
you well.
All right. I'd like to thank everyone who not only participated but also organized this panel, because I'm so glad that we can have the conversation. And I know that there's a lot of work that still has to get done, but I think that if there's that work to be done, what a better group of individuals to be involved with to be able to do it. I really appreciated the comments from the first panel this morning, because wearing a couple of hats, one looking at policy and then being on the units interpreting, our vulnerable populations really, really need to understand how they can be empowered. They're the experts about themselves, and I think sometimes they're not given the voice and the room to be told it's okay. And to ask that question, or to say something like, this is a lot of information. And the words I've used with my healthcare providers is exactly that. This is a lot of information, and the way my brain is wired, I'm going to try to absorb this. And when I have questions, I will go ahead and ask them, how do I do that? The other thing that I appreciate from my providers is when I ask a question and they honestly tell me that they don't know, that they don't know right there at that moment. Because in the healthcare field, saying I don't know, that's a very sophisticated response. And I appreciate that, because that means that they are listening to me. And so how can we pass this on to empower those whom we serve so that we do meet them where they are and we're able to address a lot of the concerns that we've been able to discuss here? Thank you.
Lori?
So thank you. Laurie Myers from Merck. So something Lori said brought up another thought, which is here we've talked a lot about patient labeling and other things, but to really fix things upstream, there are a lot of other things that pharma companies should think about too, and I just wanted to note a few of them here. So one of them is clinical trials materials. So making sure that those materials are accessible to people with low health literacy. Another is really paying attention to the participation of underrepresented populations in clinical trials. And that's so important, and again, very closely tied in some cases to low health literacy. Informed consent is another one that, and it gets to comments made earlier about there's so much there. How do you really make sure that people are understanding it? And Alex is here from our manufacturing division. Things like packaging actually are developed really early on, and instructions for use in combination products. So we should really be thinking about applying health literacy principles there as well. I know that there's efforts coming to include patient perspectives in clinical trials. And one of the things I fear a little bit is that it's only the most articulate patients who are part of that process. And I think it's imperative to make sure that we're also understanding the needs and the unmet needs of patients who desire, future products, and even in terms of patient-reported outcomes and things like that. And really just even quality measures, thinking about consumerism and how do we demonstrate value to patients of our products, what are the quality measures that are important to patients, and using them as our guide as well. So thank you.
Steve?
Yeah, thanks, Steve Rush, United Health Group. And I had a very mixed reaction today, partly because I've sat through medication, health literacy medication meetings previously, and some of the same things that we said several years ago are still here. But I'm also very happy to see that there's some changes going on. Maybe they're not great big changes, but there are changes. And so that's been pretty exciting. I was really pleased to have patients, consumers in the room this morning to give their heart and their minds to what we've been working on, the challenges that we've been working on. I really like the concept of cognitive burden because that makes it real. And when I talk to people about, if you have to think too much about the medication that you're taking, or if you're getting this letter, people go, oh yeah, I can relate to that. So I like that part. I'm really encouraged by the resources and approaches that are now available to help, but we need to be able to move that forward. I did appreciate the definition of legalese, particularly since I just gave a presentation to more than 50 attorneys last week. And, but all in all, I thought that today was a very interesting and informative day. Thank you.
Jay?
Jay Dewig from AbbVie. Overall, I'm incredibly hopeful. That's my big takeaway. So kind of connecting the day, because if we have patients like that can articulate their experience and what's meaningful and their desire of what they want from their care, and then we have the type of cross-functional, cross-disciplinary participation, cross-organizational participation that we have from the companies that really, to me, is just, and I know I've only one of the shorter tenured members, but it's really the spirit of the roundtable to have this type of scientific discussion around these issues from everyone else that's the different players, the participation by FDA, by the different organizations, and we can have that discussion of going from that patients and their articulation of their needs to the identification of potential new methods and new disciplines that can be involved to have an impact, following that up with the presentations and the case examples this afternoon of those groups that are out there that are having a tremendous impact, and how that is a data-driven and outcomes-driven process, even into our future discussions of where having recognition that we don't want to be stagnant and at a stalemate of where we need to go. So that leaves me overall very helpful of what this, the potentiality and the continuing process improvements of our work and the role of the roundtable in making that happen.
Thank you. You know, by the way, I'm not uncomfortable with hearing things over and over and over again until we get it right. As a matter of fact, that is the principle of quality improvement and performance improvement, and that is to be transparent and say it again and again and again until you do get it right. So I'm totally okay with that. Michael?
Hi, Michael Valaire, Institute for Healthcare Advancement. Thank you, everybody, the organizing committee for this. This was a very good workshop. I really echo a lot of the comments that Cindy made at the beginning, particularly the panel with patients at the first one. That was the one that for me, hands down, was the best panel. Bobby, thank you very much for sharing your story and your struggles. Darvis and Caleb, I think they've already left, but thank you for sharing that. That's really, I think, at the crux of what we do. System efforts are always great. We need them. They are a critical part of what we do. But things like medication is still a very personal thing. It's something that we each do on our own, and we take medication, and we have our own struggles. We have our own issues. We have our own problems and challenges, but it's something that it's very specifically personal for each person. And on the systems level, we know what we know, but we don't know what we don't know. So we can always design approaches, best practices, all of that, and we're going to hit 80%, 90% of the problems, but we're not going to address every single issue for every single person. So I think that one-on-one interaction between individuals from the healthcare system and people who are trying to access the healthcare system is really the critical juncture. And frankly, it's where we spend the least amount of time in the entire healthcare system. So, you know, my recommendation is to really incentivize those interactions, extend that amount of time, use some different, other providers, navigators, educators, but essentially really to incentivize that, provide it when it's needed by the patient. There were some really great comments made about new medication. Discussions happen in the pharmacy before the person has actually had a chance to take that and run into the problems. And so I think providing mechanisms where we can allow, in a shame-free environment, in a cost-free environment for the patient, to access that kind of help. You know, the corollary issue here I see is some people have food issues. There's issues of food security. I know my wife, it's so funny, we'll be at dinner and I'll ask, can I have a bite of that? And she'll pull the plate back. But what I realized was when she was a child, there were food security issues. There were times when she didn't have food, and there were times when she had to fight and bully with her brother and sister to make sure she had enough to eat, and that didn't happen a lot, and I think that's a corollary for medication. People don't take medicines for their own reason. The pill's too hard to swallow. When I take this, it makes me sick. There's a lot of medications, and it's hard for me to organize my thoughts around that. So we don't know what those particular issues are. We have to respect those, and we need to be able to deal with those on a one-on-one basis. And I think that interaction is where health literacy has its greatest and most important impact. So I think that's something that going forward we need to really try to extend that amount, that one-on-one interaction. Thank you.
Thanks. Rob Logan sent me an email saying that he would like me to read his perspectives, so I'll do that. He said, I suggest the roundtable help the FDA embed a health literacy perspective as part of future post-marketing surveillance initiatives. Will Schrank told the roundtable this morning that the FDA post-marketing surveillance efforts are primarily epidemiological and overlook the social determinants of health that impact medication adherence, safety, and administration. Similarly, in May, I heard Dr. Robert Califf, the FDA's director, suggest post-marketing surveillance efforts may be insufficiently multidimensional to address contemporary drug safety-related issue. Dr. Califf suggested the FDA's post-marketing surveillance strategies may need to be expanded. I envision an important role for the roundtable to gather evidence and provide guidance about how to embed a health literacy perspective as part of revamped post-marketing surveillance initiatives. A health literacy perspective would enrich data collection for medication safety, efficacy, and administration. See you tomorrow. By all means.
I actually have a couple of things to say, but the most important is to introduce those of you who don't know. Lynn Swanziger, stand up Lynn, is with the FDA. And she is already the new co-chair of the HHS Working Group on Health Literacy. So we'll be working a lot more with Lee, and she'll be part of the leadership at HHS on this topic. So I just wanted to thank you, Lee, for joining me and the rest of the work group and for attending the meeting today. So we'll be getting to know you a lot better.
She's an old IOM.
Ah.
Yes, so she knows.
No. She's a young IOMer. She's a young IOMer. Yeah, former.
The other thing I wanted to say is thank you. I think at one of the recent meetings, I said every meeting should have something on user-centered design, and so this is great. I'm so grateful that this is carrying on this tradition. Speaking of that, I just really think it's so important to have more interdisciplinary work, and so I really appreciated what Dan Morrow, is he here? No. What he said about what I heard is kind of going beyond literacy and the skills of reading to more of the cognitive skills that we all need. And I think, Bernie, you and I share this interest in disabilities and in cognitive disabilities, and so the whole area of executive functioning is so critical to our ability not only to read, but to problem solve, well, I'm not going to give you a lecture on this, so you all know that. But we need to be bringing this science into the way we're thinking about health literacy, because it is so much more than just reading. So I wanted to thank you for having Dan and for introducing us to this idea of the cognitive part, the cognitive processing part, and the role it plays in health literacy. So great panel. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the members of the roundtable? Before we leave, and before we adjourn, seeing none at the moment, I'll still give you a moment to think about it. I want to take a moment to reflect and remember Margaret Loveland, who I think this is our first meeting since she died. Always a valuable and loved member of the roundtable. Her analytic input, her insights, and her ability to contribute to what we've accomplished over the past decade or so has always been on everybody's mind. So just a moment to reflect on that, since this is the first meeting since she passed away. Yeah, sure.
So Margaret was at Merck talking about health literacy long before I was. So in her honor for Health Literacy Month of October, we did a book drive for Reach Out and Read. It's a program at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and we collected almost 800 books in her memory. So I just wanted to share that because I think that would have made Margaret really happy.
Thank you. Any other comments? If not, yes.
It was my first time on the program committee and seeing how much work goes into these workshops.
You're never going to do it again.
Not on the program committee, but by the staff, by Lewis and Alexis. It's really remarkable to put all this together.
Thank you. Dinner is at 6:30 at Agora for roundtable members. And that is located at 1527 17th Street Northwest. So I think that's probably a cab drive from the hotel or a 30-minute walk, either or. See you all there.